Today we're learning about the California Gold Rush and how it began in 1849. This is the best simulation we will do this semester. You might actually learn something before this is over. We've been talking about manifest destiny, and manifest destiny is America's belief that it will control all the land from sea to shining sea. We've already gotten the original United States by winning the Revolutionary War. We picked up the Louisiana Purchase from France in 1803. We got different pieces of Florida in the early 1800s. We got Texas and another odd-shaped piece of land here from Mexico and Texas. We did Mountain Man Fear Factor to learn about the Oregon Territory and the Mountain Men, who are the first Americans to go out to that area and live permanently in the Rocky Mountains. Today's story is kind of about letter H. Yesterday, we may have talked about the war with Mexico. We fight a war with Mexico, largely over where this border is going to be located. The Americans win, and as a result of winning the war, a large piece of territory here becomes ours. No sooner have we signed peace treaties for all this land to belong to the United States that right about in this area, gold is discovered. Right now, you should have this piece of paper with you so we can talk about 4 different events in the discovery of gold in a timeline. And then we can just give you 4 pieces of information about the gold fields and about the gold that's being discovered. Let's start with this, discovery of gold timeline. This big section of what is now the United States was owned by Spain. When Mexico became independent of Spain, it became property of Mexico. And through the course of the 1845 to 48 war with Mexico, it eventually belonged to the United States. January 24th, 1848, here's the first thing that goes in your timeline. Gold was discovered in the American River on John Sutter's property. This is John Sutter, a wealthy businessman. He was Swedish in background. He had moved to the California territory, and he had a really great thing going on. He owned a lot of land. He owned a lot of herds of cattle. He had sawmills and lumber mills. And in a way, he was kind of a Home Depot or Lowe's of his day. As pioneers would move across the Oregon Trail from the east out to the west, when they reached Oregon, they had to have some kind of materials to build houses from. John Sutter's lumber mills provided the wood and provided some of the other materials for these people to build with. John Sutter was doing so well that he had another sawmill built so he could keep up with the demand for wood for houses and buildings. As his crew was building this sawmill, they were just about finished when gold was discovered in his property. Now, that gold, at first, they weren't really sure if it was gold or not, so Mr. Sutter had his construction company foreman, John Marshall, take gold down to San Francisco and have it evaluated to find out if it really was gold. Well, it was, and that's a problem for John Sutter. He wants to keep this as quiet as possible. At first, when most people heard about the gold, they don't really believe it, and there's not a whole lot of excitement. Here's the next point on your timeline. Sam Brannan, this is Sam Brannan, he's a man who lived in San Francisco and he ran a newspaper there. Well, Sam Brannan is the person in May of 1848 who begins to make the discovery of gold well known. Through a strange turn of events, he finds out that gold exists up in the American River on John Sutter's property. And he winds up purchasing all the gold mining equipment, anything that could be used to mine gold that he can find in the Sacramento or San Francisco area. He buys all the shovels, the pickaxes, the gold pans, whatever. Buys it all up. Then he prints in his newspaper that there is gold at Sutter's Mill along the American River. This makes people go crazy locally, and people want to go buy all this equipment to mine gold with and run up to the hills to mine gold. Well, they have to buy their equipment from Sam Brannan. Some people say he's the smartest guy in the bunch. He didn't do the hard work of gold mining. He just sold equipment to gold miners. Here's the third event on your timeline. August of 1848, the news of the gold discovery in California makes it back to the East Coast and is printed in the New York Herald newspaper in August 1848, about 8 months after gold is discovered. Now, some people are going to believe this and think this is great, but unfortunately, the New York Herald doesn't have the best reputation for honesty. They tend to kind of exaggerate things, and so a lot of people are a little leery about there really gold out there in California. Also, because this is August, it's not a great time to start heading west. At that time, if you're going to travel over land, if you live on the East Coast, it's going to take you 6, 7, 8 months to get to California. It will not be a good idea to start out in August or September and travel through the winter months to arrive in California in May. That just won't work. So a small trickle of miners begins moving west, but the real action is going to happen after President James K. Polk announces in a speech to Congress that gold really truly has been found in California. It is almost as easy as the rumors say. It's almost as easy as just picking it up off the ground. Maybe it's almost as easy as turning over rocks or digging a little bit and you can find gold and become rich. This is President James K. Polk. People have been wanting to know, is it true? Is there gold in California? And the president confirms that in December 1848. This is a picture of the United States Capitol building. The oldest picture known to exist. Today, the visitors center that we were in is down here underground. There is a bigger House of Representatives chamber, a much bigger dome, and a bigger Senate chamber on this side of the building today. Let's talk a little bit about how much gold there was out there. The Calaveras nugget was the largest single nugget mined in the California Gold Rush. Now, this is about 5 years into it, when people are using a little bit more sophisticated equipment. It was 162 pounds of one piece of gold, sold for about $44,000. Then, today, we think it'd be worth somewhere around $3.5 million. A four-man crew in one day set a record by finding about $50,000 worth of gold. That'd be roughly $12 million in today's money. It'd be pretty good to make $12 million a day. It wasn't uncommon for a four-man gold mining crew to find $1,000 in gold or gold nuggets or gold dust in a day. That's roughly $22,000 in today's money. Today, gold is worth about $1,271 per ounce. There are 16 ounces in a pound, so it doesn't take a lot of gold to rack up a lot of money in a hurry. The total wealth of the gold rush is about $250 million in 1850s money, roughly $55 billion today. It's pretty exciting because in California, a lot of that gold is not that hard to get. These people in the picture are using very simple equipment, a gold pan, or a thing called a cradle, a thing called a long tom. These people are just using fairly simple equipment, and they're hoping to strike it rich. So the California Gold Rush is going to be a really, really big story in the middle 1800s. We'll talk more about some problems in the gold field, but for right now, we are very excited to get our way to California and see how rich we can get, how fast.